And welcome back to Prop by the Bar, here with another jam-packed edition and off the back of our biggest viewership on our last episode. So thank you.
13,000 views.
Yeah, nearly 14,000. So thanks very much for tuning in. Now, big episode. We've got two CEOs. We've got Jeremy Crawford from the Geelong Chamber of Commerce and Michael Johnston from the Committee for Geelong coming in and having a chat.
And we get to prove that they are actually two separate people.
Yeah, we're going
a lot of people think that they're the same person, but no,
myth.
They are both very tall, elegant, handsome-looking men, but they are very different men. No, but it's good. It's good to have them down, I think. That was great.
All right, so it's RBA Tuesday.
It is. We had a rate cut.
We have.
Fantastic.
Just a month too late?
Yeah, the one we should have had.
Yeah.
Didn't you feel it though? Like when the market was just getting some momentum and then Michelle Bullitt, she comes out and doesn't do what everybody expected.
Waiting on data that I think most people knew what the data was.
I don't know what that was.
And those data bits now, like the CPI was 2% and well in the range of where they want it.
They wanted it at, I think the medium one that they go with was 2.7. They were expecting 2.9. So they're actually, worse results really than what they expected. And then they've finally done it again. But, the market confidence just got sapped over 4 weeks.
We did see it in inquiry. I think a hold was more damaging to confidence than than an increase almost.
I don't understand why that does, because it feels like in Victoria especially that we are on a fringe of recession if we don't get some momentum.
And not one economist had pegged in a hold.
No.
It was priced 100% in the market.
In Victoria, on all, there's 4 different measurements: unemployment, all this sorts of consumer sentiment, all this sort of stuff. Victoria's coming last in all 4 out of all the other states in terms of all those metrics that make up, where the markets are at and the sentiment out there, and we're coming the last. And over that period of time, it's interesting to see that Brisbane market kept flying, WA market kept flying, New South Wales market still recovering quite well, but the Victorian market is the one that's really, still really sensitive to any of these rate cuts or rate adjustments. And so now we've finally got one, and hopefully we get that confidence back. But again, I think it's going to take a little bit to build it again.
So what's it going to do domestic level from a housing perspective?
I think we're going to. I think the good thing now, we're in August, we're coming into spring, right? So we're sort of getting it at the same time as the spring market should start coming. I would guess that your agents have probably been working on getting campaigns ready to launch, and they're probably talking about the first week of September or something. Generally, they launch the spring campaign.
Yeah, generally there's people overhaul want to be part of the spring.
So I think it'll give that spring campaign hopefully a bit of oomph, because we've got it this week, and hopefully you've got 2 weeks before that spring campaign kicks off. So people will get their gear together, they'll be able to look at things and get their banking sorted out, get their pre-approvals, and I think hopefully we'll get a bit more momentum into this market, which I think we do, because you're still only seeing one buy for every property.
So I guess still the issue is it's not an issue of, it's still a housing crisis. So
it is,
there's always going to be upward pressure on some prices.
You saw that the CBA the CBA movement index that came out in March, I think it was. It showed that, I think we talked about last episode, that Victoria still is, and the Geelong region is the fastest growing population in the country. So we've got population growth, and so that means we do have a housing crisis because we're not building enough houses to replace them, right? Yeah. The interesting thing is that we've seen the vacant land stuff start to come on and get going again, and we've seen a recent announcement of the Creamery Road precinct structure plan, the DCP amount. So DCP is the development contribution credits. Now, this has to be paid by the developer on top of the purchase prices to the government when they register the plan of subdivision, and it's a direct cost to the developers. Now, in previous development contribution plans, like Armstrong's Creek, and other ones around the place, Bellpost Hill, other ones that have been done, those DCP rates are around $330,000 per developable hectare, right? And this one in Creamery Road was at the start of the year released at $1.6 million per NDA, which is 4 times higher than anybody expected, and made those developments unfeasible. And over this last little period of time, the government's had a rethink, I guess, and they've gone to the Minister of Planning, and then they've pushed it back, and it looks like we're going to come in now around that 800,000 on the DCP for that Creamy Road, which is that Bellpost Hill, Batesby area, which should start seeing some movement now to open up some of this extra land.
Been a long time coming.
Yeah, and I think that will mean we'll get more land on the market, which is needed. And I think we'll also start seeing that land offered at reasonable prices. With that 1.6 million, and a lot of that wasn't even going into the infrastructure of those developments. It was going into housing affordable levies and things like that. So it's good to see that there's some sense coming through in a lot of these things, and there's a lot of sense. So I think the affordable housing thing, it's going to be an issue going forward. But
you said talking sense, talking nonsense. You hear the little sneaky leak that the state government's considering a tax on selling your primary residence.
Seriously, I think I'm just going to go and move to Russia with those other white blokes, right?
So it's a win-win.
To Russia, we're straight to the front. I feel like I'm at the front already. Seriously, if they come and take our houses, what do we got left? Seriously, that's what they're doing. They're taking your hard-earned. You've already paid tax on the money that you've gone and put into your house.
And the stamp
duty.
And
the stamp duties and the land taxes and everything else, the other 55 property taxes. Now they're going to take the last bastion of savings. Are we in communist Russia? Ridiculous. And now this is on top of all these other taxes. It's good to see that the state Libs have come out and said that they're going to scrap 5 taxes as soon as they get into government, but I don't know if they'll get into government. Yeah. So we'll see what happens there.
There's a bit to go under the bridge there.
We are getting close to an election campaign sort of stuff starting too, because we get into September, you get the both parties, I think Liberal and Labor, both sort out who they're getting running in what seats, and they'll start getting into that campagin mode. So we'll start seeing
an announcement of
some stuff, won't we?
Some legal working from home for 2 days a week.
Oh, yeah. That just takes the control away.
Just what the CBDs need.
So if you're an employer and you actually want to control what your employees do that you pay, you no longer will have that ability. I don't think she has the powers to do it because that's a federal jurisdiction. So there'll be some legal argy-bargy around that. But let's get back to property. One of the good things I wanted to talk about was we do quite a lot of the rate stuff, as you know, within our office, and land tax stuff. And we're able to get some statistics around the different areas around the state that have had the most growth and over the last 12 months.
Surprise packet in number one?
Surprise packet number one, Colac Otway had a 14.9% annual change over the period of 24-25. To up to averaging around 609,000. And that was followed by Corangamite. So those Western Districts areas have really felt the benefit of the shift, I believe, because they're affordable. Because you can go out there and you can buy a house, for 460,000 in Corangamite, and things like that. So I think people are looking to go further afield to find affordable houses and find good places to live. So and the bush is good places to live. And then you got I think you went up. I think Indigo is the third, which is up northern Melbourne somewhere. I think.
I'll take your word for it.
Yeah, 13.1%, and then Mildura up by the river, 10.6%. So really getting some big growth around the areas, and then Geelong would be right down the bottom of that, somewhere around the 2.5% or something. So
somewhere in the twos.
Yeah. So we haven't. So we're nowhere near that. Warrnambool was at 3.5%. So growth over that period. So across state Victoria, I think we averaged only 0.7% across the whole state.
Yeah.
But yes,
in
most
comparison
of that,
to other states.
In comparison to states, well, the other states are at about 1.4. No, even more. I think Brisbane and Queensland are somewhere up around 5%. Sydney's at 5%. So we're still well behind. But that's an opportunity, I think, for purchases. I think investors will now start looking at Victoria. We're lagging behind so far that at some point we have to become so attractive for investors.
Now, last week we saw the Mayor. He's very, very public about
I like what he's doing
the bus stops.
I like what he's doing.
Yeah.
I'm on the...
And his argument is, and rightly so, I agree totally, is that it's stifling investment within the middle of the city.
Absolutely it is. I mean, you put your bus stops there, you create these big dark corridors between the bus stop and the front of these shops, and it feels dangerous. It feels unsafe, and people aren't going to go there in those...
Really seems to be that disconnect between what local government, the business and stakeholders compared to state government want.
He's not Robinson Crusoe. Every council has come out over the last 3 or 4 years and said the buses need to be moved.
Yeah.
Every stakeholder has come out and said they need to be moved. The only people that won't move them is our state elected Christine Cousins won't move them. She's adamant that this is what people want.
It's quite clear that our biggest landholder there, which is Market Square, which we've had a bit to say about, but they want to move too before they spend any money there.
Yeah, absolutely. Why would you spend money there if you had the buses stopping out the front, they're preventing people from coming in, which is exactly what they're doing at the moment. Yep. And there was a proposal to bring the buses into the middle of the street and then block the street off. But what traffic, that would have massive implications on traffic movements and flows and foot traffic as well. So it would probably just have, if not a worse effect on the CBD. Yeah. So they have to be moved. I love the idea that he had where they go back, they deliver people at the train station, which is built for it, right? And then they have shuttle buses that every 10 minutes that are taking people through the CBD. Now that's a much more equitable solution, if you ask me.
And it unblocks the centre of Geelong.
And it gives Christine what she wants. She wants people being able to be delivered in the middle of Geelong on public transport. Well, you can still get that. So I actually think Christine needs to get on board with this, and I think that we need to get it done. And good on Stretch for coming out and having a crack. And he's got he's had a crack with the Market Square people as well, I understand, and not sure where that's at with them just at the moment. But from our point of view, it's going all gangbusters. The state government is having a good look at it, the proposal we put up as well. So hopefully we get some movement and some traction on the whole Market Square proposal over the next this election period as well.
Now, locally as well, you've had a good look at what's on the market, and you had a job to pick the top 5, and you couldn't do that. You picked the top 6.
Oh, I just couldn't separate a couple. Couldn't separate a couple.
So why don't are you going to do it in reverse order? Or?
Well, yeah, I think so. Let's do it in reverse order. That's a good idea, actually. I had to plan with that, but let's do it that way.
All right, number 6.
So number 6, and starting out there, because this is just a transaction it's just happened, actually. And industrial transaction, a big industrial warehouse and retail showroom in Dyson Court Breakwater, 4 Dyson Court Breakwater. And why I had this at number 6 and why it's interesting is because this sold 12 months ago, just over 12 months ago, for $3.8 million, and it just recently sold again for $4.9 million at market after a marketing campaign by Colliers. Chris Nanny did a great job there and was able to transact that for an extra $1 million. So
in a market where industrial has been soft, it's a good result.
Really soft market. Yeah. So you can make money when you buy well. Yeah. And I would have said that actually that the original purchase 3.8 was probably a bit light, and he bought that really well. He's held on to it a year and he's flipped it for 4.9. You know, all hats off. That's good property. That's good business. So well done.
Number 5.
Coming in at number 5, the Queenscliff Brewhouse.
Yeah.
People might know the Queenscliff Brewhouse. I've got drunk beer.
The old Espy back in the day, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. It's been transacted. Now, it has AVC has taken out the leasehold there, and AVC we've also got the lease for Eureka. So they've got about 250 odd venues around Australia. So for them to have leases in around our region is really good because it means they're going to be here a long time. They've got plenty of deep pockets to ride out the ups and downs of the hospitality sector, which has been really tough. But this property sold for $6.5 million after being on the market for a bit of time, and it really reflected a yield of 5.52%, which is really a tight yield for quite a large property that's had a checkered history. Yeah. You know, it hasn't. These pubs. They're not easy, but to get a good lease in there, I think ABC are in there till 2035, so it's really a purchase on the leasehold, on the lease and on the income. So it was returning $358,000 per annum. So it's a good buy, 5.5%. So yeah, Queenscliff Brewhouse. So it's good to see these.
Number 4
reselling. Number 4. This one's been on the market forever, and you can't be from Geelong if you haven't driven past and seen the orange Maxwell sign for sale for the last, I don't know how many years. It's been for sale forever. Latrobe Terrace, Newtown, top of the hill. It's a challenging property, 13 bedrooms, a heritage Art Deco sort of like rooming house at the top of the hill, and it was sold with plans and permits to be used as rooming house, I believe. 13 rooms, 9 bathrooms. 4-car garage, so it's a big property. And they were originally asking like $4 million and $5 million, and then it was dropped to $3.4 million. And then I see it's recently sold, big sold sign, and they're asking between 2.5 and 2.7. So they've had a few drops to bring it down. I understand it's sold somewhere in that range of 2.5 to 2.7.
Yeah, tricky property.
So tricky property. Well done to Maxwell Collins for getting rid of it. That's tenacity. Tenacity, right? So well done, guys.
What have you got penned in at number 3?
Number 3, I've got one of my favourite properties on the whole of the Ballerine, Suma Park, where you can go and play a game of cricket because you have your own cricket ground at Suma Park. It's a beautiful spot, and you sit up there on the old mansion and you look over the cricket ground where there's been a few games played there. I think there was an Australian team even played there, and you see the bay behind you and everything. So it's a beautiful spot. There's a wedding venue there in the old stables. There's lots of accommodation out there, so it's more than just a house. It's a whole venue.
And there's a bit planned there to come.
The purchaser, who you and I both know, great friend, great fella. He's got he's in the building industry, and he's got the ability to be able to fix it up and really give it what it needs, which is a bit of a polish. The old guy that had been running it for a long time, bless his heart, was in his 80s, I think, and had, just I think it all become a bit too much.
Yeah, well, there's big plans for it, so I look forward to seeing that.
It's good to see someone buy it and want to restore it, bring it back and give it, bring back the heritage of it.
Top two? What do you got?
Top two. Oh, yep. Okay. So my favourite house. This is the house that I said if I had to sell my house, this is where I'd want to live. If I could afford it, I'd have to win Tats Lotto to afford it as well, mind you, or maybe just sell your car. But Wraith Terrace, Newtown, beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Sits up there on, 6,000 square metres, I think it is, up there on the top of the hill in Newtown overlooking the valley. If you haven't got online and had a look at it, have a look at it. It's a ripper. It's been fully restored.
Yeah, indoor pool, gym.
Milton's, I think, had it first, and he fully restored it. It's got 5 bedrooms, 5 bathrooms. It's got a full 25-metre lap pool indoors, and it's just in such a great location. And it's just a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful home. I'd say, geez, if I had $8.5 million, or if I could get hold of your keys and sell your car, that's what I'd buy with the proceeds.
What's your number one?
Number one, we call this. It was called Manor, isn't it? 141 Noble Street, Geelong, which is Manor, it's called, I think. It's being sold at the moment. It's on the market for sale. I should have said that, actually. Both Wraith Terrace and Noble Street are on the market for sale at the moment. Wraith Terrace is asking $8.5 million. Noble Street, 141 Noble Street is this beautiful, huge property. It's sitting on Noble Street opposite Geelong College almost, and next to the grammar school. It's asking 4.3 to 4.9 now, but interestingly enough, it was only purchased in 2022 for 4.75. Now, it's a massive house, and it's got the old Art Deco design about it.
Beautiful house.
Beautiful house. 5 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, 2,500 square metres in probably the best location in Geelong. It's big gardens. It's quite glamorous house. It's one of a lifetime. Like someone, you buy that. It's a house that would probably stay in your family forever type thing. So so to see these sort of houses come to the market's rare. To see it come to the market within 2 years of each other is even rare again. Yeah. So I think it looks like the purchaser may there have paid. Maybe he's paid too much. If they think that now the asking range is lower than what he paid, so that's a good opportunity for someone.
Yeah, and it's been a long time since we've actually spoken about some interesting properties on the market. For a long time, there hasn't been anything like we used to do
Wraith and Noble, like two beautiful homes, like generational homes, and both be back on the market. So Wraith originally was purchased for 6.3 in 2021, and now they're asking 8.5. And Noble Street was purchased in 2022 for 4.75. And they're asking 4.3. So it's interesting that it really does. If you've got that modern appeal about it, you can expect some sort of increase in value, perhaps. Yep. Do you reckon that's explaining why you've got an increase in one but not an increase in the other? Like they are both beautiful homes, but at the same time, I think the Wraith Terrace one has more of that because it's been modernised. Yeah, it's got that appeal that someone will pay for. Yeah, where the Art Deco one,
turnkey in there.
Yeah, the Art Deco one at Noble Street sort of is as it was when he bought it, and it's still a beautiful home, but it's just not as, it doesn't sort of attract that increase for some reason in the market. So interesting to see what happens with both of them. And the agents, I should mention the agents. David Cordes has got Wraith Terrace at Newtown, and Tom Butters has got Noble Street at Geelong. So good luck, boys. We'll be watching.
Interesting to see those results.
Yeah.
So we have two gents waiting to have a chat to us. Probably got some more interesting stuff to talk about than what we can offer.
Yeah.
So when we get stuck into our interviews. We have two Geelong heavy-hitting guests joining us today on Propped, and contrary to popular belief, they're not the same person. We've actually got both of them in the same room together. You're not seeing double. Do not adjust your sets. But we have Michael Johnston from Committee for Geelong and Jeremy Crawford from the Geelong Chamber of Commerce. So thanks for joining us on Propped, gents.
Great to be here. And you guys have both been in the job now about 2 years. In fact, you both got appointed to your jobs like about a month apart, didn't you?
We did.
So it's there's a good reason why people get a little bit confused about the two of you around town, aren't they? And you're both tall, good-looking roosters.
We've managed not to score on outfits today, though, so we're winning already.
I'm not wearing my glasses just to really differentiate between us.
So, I might pass it over to you boys to tell us, because the committee for Geelong and the Chamber of Commerce, two of our great advocacy groups around Geelong. Me and Mike are both involved in both and big supporters, but from the outset, I want to say that. But also, I think it would be great for you two to tell us why you're different and you know, how you work together collaboratively to represent Geelong. So, Mike, do you want to lead off first? Tell us about the committee and, you know, why we need it and you know, how you work with the Chamber.
Yeah, absolutely. So look, the committee, for those who aren't familiar with it, we've been around for just shy of 25 years. So it's be our 25th anniversary next year. It was always seemed and based on other Committee 4 structures. So there's a Committee for Melbourne, a Committee for Sydney, and Committee 4s are really around taking long-term sort of 20, 30-year visions and views of the city, working with really diverse range of stakeholders and industries. So, you know, while the Chamber might have had, you know, more of a small business orientation and focus in the past, we've typically been dealing with more medium to larger business sector, but also the community sector in Geelong in terms of who we represent within our membership base. You know, we're taking a very holistic view around key infrastructure needs, around what the future economy might look like, how we attract and retain talent of people in our region, how we make Geelong the most livable place it can be. Yeah, so there's some really good intersections there, because a lot of the work that the committee does has a flow-on effect to businesses that are a bit more here and now. So Michael's doing a lot of work that's quite future-focused. The Chamber's a little more short to mid-term, particularly on supporting business. So the Chamber really exists to drive business success, and we do that through connection, advocacy, professional development and learning, and supporting businesses through looking at new investment opportunities.
I really love your networking events. They're my favourite. You free drinks and meet lots of different people around town. They're actually really good connectors, aren't they? So your Chamber does a great job. How many businesses are involved in the Chamber?
So we got about 700 members at the moment, and the Chamber's really changed. It's not just the membership body. We represent a lot of different groups, whether it's leaders or the region more broadly. And that's one of the things the Chamber's had to reinvigorate the last few years is who we represent and what it means, because it's not just an inward-facing organisation, and we're also aware we need to look after the region holistically. So there's been a few changes made, but quite broadly, those events you talk about, Gareth, are quite unique to Geelong, because they don't exist that way in a lot of other parts in Australia.
They're awesome. They actually do get you out there, and they're actually a great event to go to. They're just fun, right? Because you meet lots of people that you talk to on the phone and do business with. But then when you go and have a beer with them, it gives you a whole different sort of perspective.
We saw some numbers come out last week that Geelong is the fastest growing region in Australia, surpassing Sunshine Coast. So does the committee have any concerns about the increase in population surge, and what sort of infrastructure are you guys sort of advocating for?
Yeah, I mean, you always preface this by saying, geez, that's a great problem to have. I mean, consistently over the last 10, 15 years, right, Geelong has been in that either the fastest or second fastest growing region in Australia. And if you're thinking about what we're hearing too, are some of the barriers that are in front of businesses in terms of property investors and developers, is the cost of actually trying to do stuff here. And despite all of that, we've got people moving here in these droves when they could be going and setting up shop in Noosa and enjoying the sun. Right, people are coming here because they want to be here. Fundamentally a great problem to have. The mix of demographic of people that are coming here too, we've seen over the past 12 months now, net migration is coming now increasingly from overseas. So the profiling of the people that are living here very much in that 25 to 45, 50-year-old cohort. So people in prime earning capacity, age and stage, with a diversity of jobs. Like these are all wonderful things for any city, much less, what has effectively been a large regional city now becoming a standalone city in its own right. But from an infrastructure perspective, we are facing some major challenges. We've got huge numbers set under the Victorian government's housing statement, just under 130,000 new dwellings within the city of Greater Geelong alone over the next 25 years. Like, that's a significant amount. It's more than we've got now. The capacity within construction to be able to do that, the speed for government and at local level as well as state level to get those approvals through they need to do. Gareth, we've been working on this city Green Heart project where it's trying to stimulate how we can get more of this high-rise density happening within the central Geelong, because that's going to have a lot of it hinged off it. And it needs to be some high density in central Geelong, because transport infrastructure just has not caught up. And that's a combination of roads and public transport.
Not only is it not caught up, but what is the plan to move in line with what we're expecting with population.
Yeah, like it has to be driven off the back of public and active transport and having more people living in close proximity to a public transport connection that's going to get them from where they live to where they need to go, not just getting them on a bus that's going around on a scenic tour of the region they live in to get them to a train station and to get them to a Melbourne. So yeah, Geelong needs its own dedicated public transport network that's solving the needs of its people and moving them around. And whether or not that's things like more rapid services coming in from your places like Torquay, Drysdale, Leopold coming in there, Bannockburn, a huge opportunity as that population grows. People that are able to then get to where employment close to where they're living by living in and around those larger areas on the fringe of the CBD, in the CBD. There's obviously some road pieces there. So the Ballarat link is something that's been sitting there now for well over a decade. It's identified. We know where it's going to go. There's no money coming anytime soon for that. Because we know, and the work's been done, that if we're not seeing that change in investment into transport infrastructure and some of those key projects, you're looking at a 490% increase in terms of the commute times in the city of Great Geelong by 2035.
We've got a bit to do, don't we?
A lot to do.
A lot to do. Well, in that same vein, we're growing not just the population, but we're growing businesses. So Geelong's actually one of the fastest growing places where we've got new businesses. It's also one of the places where there's been a huge number of businesses in the recent times go into liquidation and delinquency. So we've had, I think the stats, 167 companies across Geelong go bust over the last 24 months. Now, that was 71 of those were construction companies, obviously related to housing and the downturn in construction. But we've got a lot of business on the backside of the 167 going out. There's about 800 that have started. So the net gain in businesses is quite positive. How's the chamber with all this growth, with the number of people coming in with these businesses? How are you coping? What are you guys planning in the chamber to help facilitate business growth and to support these businesses?
Yeah, good question, Gareth. So there's a few things to unpack in there. There's always a huge number of businesses starting in Geelong. It's a really attractive place to start. The key thing there is retention. You want to maintain the businesses that you've got. Construction is really difficult because of the recent costs over almost an extended period of time now. Inflationary pressures.
We're going to see into that because we're starting to see the Sunshine Coast, everything start taking the cost pressure away, but we've still got this growth in businesses. So in terms of what do you do into the programs you run at the Chamber to support the new ones?
Yeah, so twofold. One is that you'll see a lot more education-based programs for professional development, and that can be everything from business essentials, making sure businesses have got their finances, marketing, customers all in check, but also from a leadership perspective. So you've got good people leading those businesses as well. But what we are seeing is there are some probably more traditional markets and industries that are really struggling. Victoria, whether you like it or not, is not the easiest place to do business in Australia. It's consistently ranked incredibly well.
Well, just owners here, mate.
So you bait. And that's always a challenge. Now, there's plenty of strategies and a lot of advocacy around what the Geelong Chamber thinks should happen to try and dig out of that. But I think it comes back to the point around being fastest growing region as well. Our concern is around complacency. It's a great tagline to be known as the fastest growing region, but it's going to sit there forever unless people have the right vision and the right leadership to drive it.
Combined call to action, with all this growth in businesses and in population. We need a big call to action, don't we, from the government?
Absolutely. You've got to be able to leverage and capitalise on that opportunity. And we consistently get feedback that Geelong's growing, so something should happen. But the reality is it still needs that mix of public support, private enterprise, and being able to invest in areas that are going to return, because without that, it'll just be a tagline that it's fast growing. We've got to meet the growth expectations.
Yes. Yeah, that's kind of, all these indices are in place and they sound great, but what are the incremental steps that are in place to actually reach those milestones?
Yeah.
So it's
we don't have, well, it's a fact we don't have a transport plan, a dedicated, integrated transport plan yet. Is it pain in the arse?
Well, I'll go a step further, Gareth. And you think about the release of Plan for Victoria earlier in the year and the work that was done, to Jeremy's point, like all of the local advocacy bodies, we all came together in terms of putting in consistent feedback along the City of Great Geelong. So there was a very clear message received by the Victorian government around what the Geelong broader community wanted to see within that plan. And what we got was, basically another plan for Melbourne that had a couple of pages in there for other non-metropolitan Melbourne sectors and not a lot of detail in there for Geelong. And we worked really closely again with other groups in terms of getting that feedback.
So is that a failure of government or a failure of our advocacy?
I think that's ultimately, if you look at it, it's not just a Geelong issue. This is just a government that is, despite what it's saying around wanting to have a broader view around plan for Victoria, it ultimately delivered on a very metro-centric view of the world. They've got constrained budgets. You've got things like suburban rail loop that are going to completely absorb a whole heap of infrastructure spending over the coming decades. And it's not just Geelong, right? You look through that western corridor of Melbourne and the amount of key activity centres in terms of employment precincts that are included within Plan Victoria they're just not there once you get sort of the further west of Melbourne you go and into Geelong. We worked really well in putting in place that alternate future for Geelong, that plan for Geelong that goes into these details in terms of being able to even get an audience with Minister Kilkenny, right? So we've now put that in place in terms of saying, hey, this is what we think it should be. We see that there is a need for Geelong to be recognised as one of those key priority precincts. To date, Rod, that's still sitting there in the hands of governments that
So they haven't signed off on
it. They haven't signed off on it.
So what we're asking there is for Geelong to be the 16th priority precinct.
Correct.
So they've tabled 15 around Melbourne. We need Geelong to be the 16th.
Look, and what we are hearing positive. Yeah, we're hearing positive things coming out that plan will continue to evolve. So that's where the advocacy work becomes more important and being backed up by business owners and community leaders to be saying.
And that's why it's important to have the chamber on board with these things.
Absolutely. And particularly, with G21 sort of now falling away, like the need to have that extra combination of voices and collaboration of voices so that every time that one of these ministers, that the government, but all sides of politics are hearing messaging coming out of Geelong. You want consistency,
same voice,
clarity. You just want them to be getting, okay, we're sick of hearing about Geelong wanting to be one of these priority precincts, and we want to be a priority precinct so that we can get fast-tracked development approval, so that we can get those clear market signals going out there to investors, to developers to go, okay, we know that we've got some security. It's not going to be tied up in a 3-5+ year process to try and get things, as we've seen in areas like Paddington North and whatnot.
So we've got the city has just pulled out of G21, haven't they? And they've signed a deal with Wyndham Council. What's that going to mean for the chamber, Jeremy? Is that going to mean you've got some links into Wyndham and growing businesses out of Wyndham?
And I think it's important to separate that sentence, Gareth, because they haven't jumped ship from G21 to Wyndham.
Oh, sorry.
They've pulled out of G21, but separate to that, they've signed an MOU with Wyndham City to work more closely on some of the aligned priorities that both Geelong and Wyndham have. We already work up through the corridor into Wyndham to some degree, but it's hard to get away from the fact that the western side of Melbourne catchment is obviously an opportunity for Geelong and vice versa. Avalon smack bang in the middle, and that's an incredibly important asset for that to continue growing, both on the airport side and the freight and logistics. And so we'd expect to continue working with businesses we already are in Wyndham. The committee for Wyndham is quite active.
Have they got a chamber up there?
They don't have a chamber. They've got a couple of business groups, but the committee for Wyndham
there could be
recently established.
With the chamber growing in the Wyndham Geelong chamber, or
yeah, there could be. I mean, we're already seeing businesses use that west of Melbourne as a talent pool. We've got staff at the chamber that come from Wyndham as well, so I think it's quite complementary more than anything else. I don't think it's going to necessarily mean a huge game-changing shift in bringing the two together, but there's enough there geographically, but also strategically to be able to work with Wyndham.
Yeah, there's a big opportunity.
Michael, we're talking about advocating with government for infrastructure projects. In your eyes, what are the 3 key infrastructure projects that are needed for Geelong?
Yeah, look, we haven't really deviated, I guess, from what we book into the federal election campaign, where it's around working backwards, investment into the alternate water grid. So you can't have any functioning society, right, without adequate water supply. And it's quite alarming when you actually talk to the people in the know around where we're sitting, where we would be without access to the desal.
Our water storage is as low or lower than the turn of the millennium, from my
correct, right? Yeah. So I mean, and there was decisions made, and the committee were actively involved in this back in the day. Chat to Peter Dorling and he'll tell you all about it, right? But it was tapping into the Melbourne pipeline, and that included, some controversial things like fluoride coming into the water supply, which never existed when we were all growing up as kids. That means that we're now accessing the desal plant and that water supply coming out there. Like, we would be in a lot of trouble if we weren't accessing that, and that's only going to grow as the population grows. So having that investment in the alternate water grid to be able to provide alternate and recycled water coming into feed into industry, into agriculture, into those residential development spaces, we think is absolutely fundamental in enabling everything to happen. You touched on Jeremy around Avalon, and as an employment precinct, we see Avalon as being the employment precinct that needs the most investment in there. You've got a growing defence industry happening out there. Hanwha arriving. You've got imminently a Lockheed Martin announcement that's seemingly going to happen out there as well. Big growth. You're seeing all that employment precinct growing out. 10 to 15,000 depending on who you speak to on any given day of people trying to get out there. So that needs critical infrastructure investment, both roads going in, train station, over the medium to longer term, in the short term, public transport access getting out there, as well as just pipes and wires. And then from a housing perspective, it's been around getting key things in place in central Geelong. And one of the examples that we've spoken about, and Gareth and I have been working closely on, is this concept of going, well, how do we unlock all that unutilized development that's sitting there idle? We put out there our vision for this Green Heart on the Market Square site that we think is an absolutely game-changing opportunity to invest in some, a complete revitalisation of that part of the CBD. The CBD of Geelong has been going through this revitalisation that dates back to the 90s when the first mining got put into the waterfront. We've seen that continue through the cultural and arts precinct.
Yep.
That's worked its way through Little Mallup. You're seeing what's happening in there, even jumping over the other side. And, Cam and Hamilton Group are doing their thing in Brighton Hitchcocks and Region. That site, though, on Market Square, that is such a uniquely placed opportunity, I think, to be able to completely open up the CBD. We think we've got a really good proposal that stacks up, and we'd love to see go and get behind it.
Are we getting our fair share of funding?
No.
Yeah.
No, would be a simple response to that. And again, this gets back into the constrained budget that the state government's under, the need for them to focus where the population base is in central, in Melbourne and the broader metro area. But you're thinking about consistently fastest growing region in the country, the opportunity that's going to come from Geelong to go, hey, we don't need everything just to hang off of Melbourne. We've got population growth, employment growth, business growth, economic growth, all happening an hour down the road. Geelong needs more money. They need more investment.
Yeah,
vastly more.
And I think on that point too, we're not seeing any enabling investment. So we're seeing potentially some consideration around dropping funding for infrastructure or projects. But what's really bottomed out, if you analyse, say, the grants and funds that used to be available going back 5 to 10 years, there used to be money for businesses to be able to take some and invest themselves and grow over time. There used to be money to get programs up and running, which has a greater economic development impact. And so what our businesses are really seeing is a lot of that's dried up. So there's no investment coming for growth. Getting money for capital funding and cash funding is even harder than it used to be. But the government really needs to find a way to invest to grow, because if they don't do that, they're not going to see an ROI. If there's no ROI, the funding avenues are all going to dry up.
Yeah. That comes with that productivity, lack of productivity stats that have come out across the country, haven't they? That we're really well behind in productivity. But, as you're saying, we're lacking in the grants and the stimulus to drive.
Absolutely. I mean, the history of the Chamber shows we used to be incredible at accessing grants, which there just aren't any available anymore. But we used to access grants and run programs for business. We might put on a staff member for that. Yeah. The productivity that goes into that from government would have a huge return. And a lot of those have now dried up. There's a little bit of room for funding based on business cases, but Michael will probably tell you it's getting harder and harder to find them. They're really dried up. Yeah. But I think that shift of mindset from we need to save money and we need to tax more and levy more is really eating into the longer term
very anti-funding
investment. Absolutely.
Yeah. You've got to spend money to make money, don't you? Like at the end of the day, that's how commerce works. Yeah. And people just forget that, I think.
Victorians, we're heading to the polls November next year. You got any messaging for sitting candidates, and what would you like to see them delivering to our region?
Yeah, look, as I said, we did a lot of work, and it's great to hear Jeremy talking very aligned language, because that was the whole purpose of trying to line up the messaging coming out of the city and region into a federal election. And I wouldn't expect there's going to be significant changes in it coming into the state election. We're doing the work at the moment to really firm up and finalise that, and that's including working closely with organisations like the Chamber, but also with the City of Greater Geelong in arriving at that. That needs to be done over the next sort of 3 to 4 months, in my opinion. You need to be working with local MPs, with local candidates on both sides. We're trying to get those election commitments to see how you're going to get any real game-changing investment in. And despite what the budget position looks like, right, we know how politics works is the government are going to find some money to be able to throw out.
Always do close to elections.
Correct. Right. So we know that we've just been through a hard budget. We're going to have the Treasury down here next month talking about that, and the questions there is, okay, heading into next year's budget, you're going to, I think, start seeing some of the purse strings start to loosen a little bit, and heading into then, all right, whatever that war chest looks like for some election commitments. Look, the ones that we sort of already rattled off are absolutely going to be fundamental in terms of trying to see some of that, both in terms of investment from infrastructure, but also some loosening of some of the other policy positions. We put in our pre and post budget summary, and some of the conditions, and you guys know that better than me around the impost on developers in terms of what that looks like from developer contributions, things like the windfall gains tax and what that has meant for our region, and comparing that to the gate in Melbourne and where that's being taxes collected that are then going back into infrastructure in that area. You're thinking about Geelong and the investment coming in here through some of our growth, and that's money that's just going into consolidated revenues as opposed to being reinvested back into those areas. So it'll be a little bit of a mixture of those. We'll formalise and finalise that, but working closely with those local MPs in particular to say, hey, we need you working with us, really lobbying, because it's hard to know how this is going to go. But geez, at the moment, I'm not seeing enough to suggest that there's going to be perhaps the change of government that people were thinking would just naturally occur after a 3-term government and a budget blowout. So we'll work with both sides, but we'll see how we go.
Do you have do you with the Chamber, do you engage with the politicians about this election coming up? What have you seen? What do you want from them as well?
So we'll continue to push the regional priorities, but this upcoming election cycle will be all about small to medium business.
So you expect to see some of that funding enabling?
Well,
we're hoping for it, I suppose.
Hoping for it's probably better, Gareth. I don't have a lot of confidence, but what the state government will find is there's a huge number of private enterprise and also other opportunities that are willing to jump in. What we're seeing, though, is a bit of a lack of engagement in terms of coming down to Geelong and really supporting the smaller medium business community.
Yep.
But probably one of the biggest things we're finding is that we've had now previous federal and now and previous state budget that really left small and medium business behind. And that's just not good enough. It makes up 98% of Geelong, makes up 98% of Victoria, 98% of Australia.
And being taxed the hardest.
Absolutely. And often in situations where it's a bit of a grin and bear mentality for SMEs.
Lastly, why is it important for businesses and individuals to get involved with the committee?
Yeah, look, we represent, and we're talking about leadership here. The committee has had a really strong, proud history of being active leaders for our city and for our region in getting tangible results for our city and region. If you look back at 2001 when we were formed and the city now where it's transformed, any of the major game-changing infrastructure investments, things that have happened here, Geelong City deal, the committee's had its fingerprints on there. It's a collective effort. We're not going to sit here just like Jeremy's not going to sit here just like, if Stretch were here talking about the city and their involvement. No one single entity or person can sit there and claim credit for Geelong's success. Geelong's success has come because we've had really strong community leadership.
Jeremy, it's a similar question, but I've got it as a two-pronged question. I want you to tell us, what would you advise a business that's coming to Geelong? What advice would you give them to start with? And in terms of the chamber, how would you advocate them to join the chamber?
So first part of your question, new businesses, the more proactive and engaged new businesses are, the faster their success starts. And Geelong can be a unique place. Some people find it scary, but it's really just a matter of putting that effort in. And so we'll see new members come along, make some relationships, ask all the right questions, get involved, and they're the ones that progress really quickly. And understanding the lay of the land, the Chamber does a lot of work with new businesses, assisting how things are structured, different key players, different stakeholders, different things to get involved in. And that's just as vital as some of the products and services we have, is trying to understand and map out, who is the community, what do they do, the Chamber, the City of Geelong, Geelong Manufacturing Council. There's all sorts of groups and bodies that can assist.
Yep.
On your second point, so the Chamber's been around now for 172 years, and one of the key elements of the Chamber is just being able to adapt through different economic cycles. And so what we find is that when things are going really well, people want to come together and celebrate that success and use that as a bit of a culmination to ride the next wave. And when things aren't going well, which is a bit of a period we're going through now, businesses are looking for what are the things we can do that sit perhaps outside of our business that can really help grow and develop people, or grow and develop the business, or find a new strategy or a new connection.
I think my lesson along the line as a business owner is you learn that actually in your busiest times, that's when it's more important to network and market than your quiet times. I think a lot of businesses come into town and they go well for their halo effect. They get a halo for 12 months and they go fairly well. And then in that period of time, they stop. marketing, advocating, networking, connecting, community connecting the chamber. And then the next 12 months, they find it pretty tough. And a lot of them go, don't they? And so, I mean, when I look at it from a point of view, I think both your organisations are so essential for Geelong. And I think, the call has to be to businesses, new business coming to Geelong. You have to join these organisations. Like, you have to, if you want to get involved in Geelong, you want to do business in Geelong, you need to be part of these two organisations. It's as simple as that, isn't it?
Yep. Too right. I don't think you've ever said a truer word, Gareth. But, in terms of where we are placed in Geelong, my words are that I feel Geelong are going through incredible growing pains, and real strong leadership is required.
Yeah.
And I feel that
a collective voice, like one voice, and that's what we're getting at the moment.
I don't think we've had better leadership in these roles, gents. So congratulations. It's nice to hear the collective voice of GARETH'S.
Thank you for what you do, because I think it's so important that we have guys like you work together that collect. We've had it before where they haven't worked together. We've had it where they've been one against the other and that sort of thing. And I think it's now good that you guys work together and provide a collective one voice for Geelong. And I think it's so bloody important right now going forward. So thank you for the work you do.
And thanks for joining us on Prop.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you,
guys.
Thank you.
That brings us to the end of another episode. I want to just thank our two esteemed guests. How good was that chat?
They're impressive lads. They're both. It's good to see Geelong with such great leaders, to be honest. Like, they're very different, aren't they? And Michael, very analytical, and Jeremy just very passionate and a great leader as well. So I think I think we're really lucky to have them both, to be honest.
And it's all about, like, we've got the right people in the right seats. We've got, record growth.
It's difficult to get the right people in places like that. And I think that they're both doing great jobs. I love the fact that they've both tipped their organisations on their head. Since they've been in charge. Jeremy's gone out, he's doing the leadership thing, and he's really changed the way the feel of the way the chamber does their stuff. He's making it more professional, and I love the fact that Michael, with the committee for Geelong, they're just on fire at the moment. They're just pumping out really good strategies, really in front of government, and he really does know his stuff. I've been behind closed doors with Michael, with a meeting with Jacinta Allen, and also meetings with Minister Xing and others, and I've got to be honest, I wouldn't want to be in that room with those ministers with anybody else. He knows every sort of policy, he knows where they're coming from, he knows all those gibberish political acronyms that I don't know about, and he's just, he was really impressive. Great to have him in the interview. Thanks for coming, guys. You're doing such great jobs. We're right behind you. But I should also mention that all the stuff I'm talking about with the growth, we've also got the highest birth rates in Geelong.
Something in the water in Geelong.
Well, it must be,
Anyway, that brings us to the end of this episode. Thanks for the boys for coming in. Thanks to Fitz and Chris behind the camera. If you want to continue to hear from us, don't forget to subscribe. Otherwise, we'll see you soon with another edition of Prop by the Bar.